So we actually took elements from both of those dresses and then just smacked them together. It was almost like an extra bridesmaid. Like it was this big old thing that needed its own attention and its own TLC. Hey everyone, today's video is a really exciting one for me to make. It is my wedding dress journey and the things I wish I knew before going shopping for my evening gown. Excuse me, my wedding dress. Well, I guess it is an evening gown. A wedding dress is a specialized type of evening gown, but that was sort of a pageant Freudian slip. I loved my dress. My dress ended up being the amalgamation of different elements that I discovered and stumbled upon over the course of visiting 6 places. Now, I got married in October of 2019 and I got engaged in August of 2018. So from the moment I knew I was gonna get married to when I said I do was about 14 months. I actually got engaged at Stanford, where I met my husband, and we were undergrads together. We met when we were 19 and he proposed to me on a weekend that I had lost my voice. I had just come back from LA. I had partied a little too hard. It ended up being a weekend I will never forget and kind of have forgotten parts of. But when I came home, I had no voice. I was really, really surprised. He had planned a dinner. We actually went to this spot that we call The Hump. And this spot is a grassy, sort of sandy knoll that overlooks San Francisco Airport. And at night you can see the airplanes flying in. This was actually where we had our first date and where we had our first kiss too. We also used to have dates here in college where we would go to Chipotle, very fancy, right? Not the dining hall. And he would get his double wrapped Chipotle burrito, which by the way is a free tortilla that you get with your burrito. Did you know that? If you're extra hungry, you can ask for a double wrapped burrito and they won't charge you for the extra tortilla. Ramsey was a runner, so those extra calories were like, hey. And for me, I had my burrito bowl. We would take our little Chipotle takeout. We would sit on this knoll, we call it The Hump, and we would watch the airplanes fly in and just talk. So we kind of fell in love there. And when we got engaged, it was actually totally a surprise. There was a photographer there who happens to be a friend of ours. And even after I saw the photographer, I didn't put 2 and 2 together. I said, oh, Ramsey, Felix is there. And sure enough, I turned around and Ramsey was down on one knee and I was super surprised. So after the initial freak out period of having this sparkly rock on my finger and me telling the world and being super excited, reality set in that I had a wedding to plan, and not just one wedding, 2, because my husband being from the East Coast, I knew that we wanted sort of a Western wedding, and then with my parents being Chinese, we wanted a Chinese wedding too. So we ended up doing a Western wedding on October 12th and the Chinese wedding exactly a week later on October 19th. Logistically, my mind immediately went to, all right, wedding planning time, and I need to find my dress, because I knew that some of these dresses take like 6 to 9 months waiting. By September 23rd, me and my bridesmaids were already going in to try wedding dresses. The very first place that we went to was a spot called Glamour Closet. Glamour Closet is one of those places that resells high-end gowns that are either samples or could not have been sold or are larger sizes and at a discount. The experience, it was a little cramped in there. They actually have multiple brides trying things on at once on a single pedestal, so that was a little weird. It felt a little bit like a cattle call, but the quality of gowns was incredible. So I tried on a lot of different things. It was so fun. I actually ended up really loving the first one that I tried on. It was mermaid style. It had sort of the silver tint to it. But my favorite at the end of the day, after trying on so many options, my favorite of that day ended up being a strapless lace trumpet style gown that was a Ramona Caveza, and it had this sort of leaf-like lace all around it. And I just loved it because it felt like it had taken elements from nature. And something they do whenever you go wedding dress shopping is they like put on the veil to really like ignite the vision, and it's a sales tactic that they use to really get the bride like falling in love with a gown. So they put that veil on me, and sure enough, I really walked out of there kind of wishing that I had bought it, but I knew I couldn't just jump for the very first thing because it was going to be a long journey shopping. I just wanted to make sure that I had fun with the process too. and I knew we were going to a second place later that day. So the second place was at Nordstrom, and Nordstrom is the supplier for a brand called Pronovius. And this was a much better experience in the sense that my girlfriends could have champagne. It was just me. There wasn't anyone else that I was sharing my appointment with. I got to try on a lot of different things as well. Some of the fabrics that I tried on were things that I didn't envision myself wearing. It was a really fun experience to try on things that I never would have picked out for myself. I basically tasked my bridesmaids and said, go pick out 2 gowns each that you really like and would want to see on me. And so I kind of like dispatched all of my bridal party to go find some things for me because I thought it was a little bit overwhelming just to do it all myself. So I said, hey, you, go pick something out, and then I tried it on. They had this really big gold frame, and the overall presentation and the feel was more like say yes to the dress. There was like comfortable seating for everyone, and there was a lot of space. My favorite out of this Nordstrom appointment was this sweetheart A-line gown that had this tight bodice, but also a horsehair trim. I loved how it flowed, and it was in this appointment that I realized that I really love horsehair. I think horsehair is so cool. It's not actually made of horse. It's that really thick band that serves as sort of a trim. I went for a little walk in this dress. They did the little veil trick on me. It was just so awesome. I wasn't quite sure if this was too indoors though. I mean, at the time we were already thinking of doing an outdoor wedding, but because I hadn't fully chosen my venue yet, I didn't really know if this was going to be appropriate. So that was one major takeaway, which is to figure out what your venue and season is going to be before you go gown shopping. That will help you narrow down choices, because then I wasn't wasting my time on dresses that were too church dress or too formal or too indoors or too spring if I was going to have a fall wedding. I ended up having a fall wedding, but at the time I thought I was going to have a spring wedding. Now, just as some background, I've actually modeled for wedding dresses. I have had clients on This Is SF who have been in the wedding business. I've also worn a wedding dress at Miss California, so I am no stranger to wedding gowns in general. I just wanted to find something that had the wow factor, but also was balanced, that was going to age gracefully. I didn't want to give my daughter or future kids that like, ugh, the way that I looked at my mom's big puffy sleeves from the 80s. So I wanted something that was going to be a flattering silhouette and something that I'd be proud of 20, 30 years from now. So in September 2018, after visiting those 2 places, Glamour Closet and Nordstrom, I actually went to Thanksgiving. It was November, and it was time for me to spend Thanksgiving with my in-laws. I do it every year in the DC area. We actually went to 2 places in DC. The first place, I actually really liked this lace option. I thought it was very ornate. It felt very opulent. It felt very glamorous. I ultimately did not choose it. I think it was a Kitty Chen. I didn't choose it because I wasn't quite ready to say that that was the one. Now at this point, I think I had tried on so many gowns that I was starting to fall into this like paradox of choice, which is when you have too much choice, it's going to be hard for you to be satisfied with any one option. I had also tried on some other things, a very simple one, for instance. My mother-in-law really loved this one, but I think I was looking for something a little sexier. This next store that we visited, they technically didn't allow pictures, so I don't have much from the other options I tried on, but she did allow me to take a photo of this one. And this was my winner from that afternoon. I liked it because it had this very beachy lace all over it, and I could see myself getting married in this by the beach. We ultimately ended up choosing the Ritz-Carlton, the oceanfront lawn, and it's not really a beach wedding because I knew I wanted to have shoes. I wanted like an elegant formal affair. I didn't want an actual beach wedding with sand between my toes, but it also was next to palm trees, and it had sort of this upscale resort kind of feel. So I liked this dress because to me that felt very Florida. The material was a little bit on the heavy side though, and again, as you're noticing, all of my winners from each place all have me with the veil on because that is what salespeople do to really try to cinch it. A lot of brides do end up kind of crying when they see themselves in a gown with the veil because it really pulls everything together and makes it real for them. So after having left both these places, I didn't end up buying anything. At this time, I actually tried on my mother-in-law and my aunt-in-law's gowns from when they got married in the late 80s. And it was so much fun because some of these gowns are just so retro. I mean, the fabric, the taffeta, the shoulders, the shoes. Oh my gosh, look at these shoes. I felt like King Louis XIII in them. It was a really fun experience. We popped open some champagne. It made me think about preserving my dress. I don't know what's gonna be in fashion for if I ever have kids, but preserving my dress so that I can impart the same experience to my kids or my kids' wives in the future is something that I do plan on doing. This was one of the highlights of my wedding dress journey. After this really fun Thanksgiving 80s wedding dress try on, it was the holidays and then January rolled around and I still hadn't found my dress. It's starting to really become real that I need to find my gown soon. So I actually decided to go wedding dress shopping a third time with my pageant ED. So this is Mary McCammon. She is like a mom to me and she is the one who has really guided my style over the years. I went with her. My sister also came, which is why I have all these great photos. The very first place we went to is the spot called Bridal Galleria, and it's also in San Francisco, and they were having an Ines de Santo trunk show. Now, I don't know this brand. At the time, I was like, Ines de Santo, like no clue. When you go wedding dress shopping, you start to acquire knowledge of all these different designers and brands just because of Pinterest and all of these saved Instagram boards. Like, I had fun with it, but it was also a quick learning curve. So Ines de Santo turns out an incredible designer. I love her gowns. Out of all of the times that I went trying on wedding dresses, this day and this first visit to Bridal Galleria with the Ines de Santo representative there, I fell in love with so many of these gowns. And you can just tell the fabrics are richer, the construction is impeccable. This is a high fashion quality gown and it shows in the price tag too. The average gown was anywhere from $7,000 to $15,000. Now, I wish that I had a more formalized budget. That was something that I wish I knew. I wish that I had communicated a budget ahead of time because then I wouldn't have fallen in love with some of these amazing dresses. But I also am thrifty and I don't see myself spending $14,000 on a dress that I'm only gonna wear for a couple of hours on one day. That being said, I really took my time with trying on these gowns. They were so, so beautiful. I was just stunned. My favorite aspect of what I tried on was actually this train. Now, this is what it looks like on the runway. But when I tried on the train, I just loved the way it flowed. I loved the layers on the side. I loved the way that it had fallen and sort of the ribbon-like flow of the side of the train. It was gorgeous. Both Mary and I agreed that that train is a showstopper. It was expensive. It was something like $7,000 or $8,000. And it was like, I don't think I can just walk down the aisle in a train and nothing else. So we kind of took inventory of that and said, all right, that's the one to beat. That's really expensive, but let's see what else is out there. It really didn't hurt that Bridal Galleria was the nicest of all of the places that I tried on wedding dresses. Everything was white. It was immaculate, pristine. And the kicker is this, their lighting was so good. It was really, really bright. They served you sparkling water. Like, the experience was a 10 out of 10. It did reflect in the prices of the gowns because everything was quite a bit more expensive than any of the other places, but man, like, that place was amazing. So we left feeling like that train was the one to beat. We loved that train.
You could put that train with almost any dress and you would be in love with the dress.
Yeah. Then we went to this one called Novella Bridal, which is actually just down the street from Bridal Galleria. I actually went shopping at places that were near each other so that I could hit a couple of spots. And Novella, in a nutshell, I tried on some different things. This one had a beautiful train, but I wasn't particularly impressed. It was really hard to follow Ines de Santo's trunk show. Everything at Novella Bridal just felt very cheap. It was less expensive, but it was also like a darker, kind of dingy, less light. They also asked me to keep my socks on and not to wear high heels, which I found interesting. We didn't spend very much time at Novella Bridal. We actually go back to Glamour Closet, which was the very first place that I tried on wedding dresses, my very first day back in September of 2018. And Glamour Closet, as I mentioned, they have constantly rotating inventory because they're selling designer dresses at a steep discount. So they're getting all of the surplus stuff from all of the high-end places that they can't sell. I try on a couple things here. At this point, I am wedding dressed out. I think that I'm a little bit unable to evaluate and say what I like or dislike about dresses. It just starts to all blur because I've tried on too many at this point. Until this one dress that Mary hands me, I try on, and her and I look at each other and we just love that it is so balanced. We like that it has sort of this imperial regal thing going on top. I love the shoulder appliques because it was different. It was just the right amount of sexy all along the side. It was a continuous open design. I really, really liked it. And even though the lighting at Glamour Closet sucked and it was not flattering, there was just something about this dress that made her and I go, wow, this might be the one. I kept telling myself, I'm just gonna resell it, I'm gonna sell it, recoup some of that cost back, treat it like an investment. You know, it's like buying a home. You can buy the home at a certain price and then sell the home at a certain price. Like, you know, I was convincing myself that it was a good move. Mary actually came up with this idea to take the train from Ines de Santo that we liked and to find a seamstress to recreate something similar. So we actually took elements from both of those dresses and then just smacked them together. So we made our decision. We were gonna go with the Glamour Closet purchase, which is a Berta gown. We're going to take elements of that train and find a seamstress who can recreate that. Then our plan was to find lace appliques that we could cut out and carefully put on the tulle to connect the two so that the train didn't look out of place and didn't look disconnected from the base gown. So from February to August of 2019, I actually went to Sacramento 4 times. And Peggy, the incredible seamstress who worked so hard to recreate this gown, she did a great job. It wasn't always predictable because, you know, I'd go and it would be right and then parts of it wouldn't be right because she doesn't have a body to sew it on. So I have to go there and then actually wear the dress. She would sew certain pieces on so that's constructed properly. And then she would work on it. I'd leave, I'd come back, try it on again a couple of months later, and then she would adjust it. Sometimes she, you know, ended up doing too much work when I wasn't in the dress and then she'd have to undo it. So it was really a lot of trial and error. And I would say by and large, Peggy and Mary together did a really good job. Mary and I went and bought lace for the lace applique. This lace actually, we were still putting it on the day of the wedding. So we were a little bit last minute with that. All the while, you know, between February and August, I had actually needed to look for a Western style gown for my Chinese wedding banquet too, which would require me to make multiple outfit changes as is custom. I actually ended up buying a couple of dresses from a seller on Facebook Marketplace. They were really cheap. It was like $300 for this dress. And I ended up just having a seamstress also work with cutting out all of the extra material. They were really large dresses. She made a size 10 dress fit me at a size 2. All the while I was, you know, kind of running this process with sort of the cheaper dresses in slightly older styles. I actually bought my Chinese outfit on Facebook Marketplace too, from someone who had brought it over from Hong Kong and had no need for it. So I'd really recommend if you're looking for wedding dresses on a budget, like totally take advantage of Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, especially if you're in a big city. Now, if you're curious about how my Chinese banquet went, you can take a look at this video here. This is basically the recap of my wedding banquet made by Mark Amé Films. So fast forward and I blink, October 12th has arrived. It is my freaking wedding day. I am freaking out on the inside. I'm really trying to keep it together. The train was still requiring lace patches up until the last second, and then it was time for me to put the gown on. My mom helped me, and it was very emotional. She had tears in her eyes when I saw her cry. It made me want to cry. And by the way, the entire day, I was caught in this in-between space of laughing and trying not to cry. Laughing and trying not to cry. There was a lot of anxiety and quite a bit of stress that day. But my bridesmaids also were there cheering me on, and we had great photographers and videographers. It was just so much fun, and seeing their enthusiasm really made me feel good too. So choose good bridesmaids who are going to be there to like inject energy and positivity into your day. When it was time for me to do my first look, everything came together. His groomsmen were taking video of it. Here you can see what it looks like from a cell phone. And the professional shots, I mean, they turned out looking quite good, if I may say. It might look like I have it all together, but trust me, inside I was freaking out. I was stressed. We were running behind on hair and makeup, so I just wanted to get to the ceremony location ASAP.
Yay!
I was not sure how the train was going to lay properly because the lace was being sewn on up until the last minute. I just wasn't sure if it was going to look crooked and if it was going to be what I wanted it to be. I knew the silhouette was going to be there, but for some reason I just didn't have that confidence that the train was going to be perfect. Obviously I had nothing to worry about. I had great bridesmaids who throughout the day were helping me carry it, bridesmen helping me carry my train. It was almost like an extra bridesmaid. Like it was this big old thing that needed its own attention and its own TLC. When I saw my wedding planner, Adair, who had put so much effort into making this day perfect, I actually started to cry, and I couldn't help it because it was just so emotional seeing someone who had been there with me every second of the way. So thank you, Adair, you did a great job. I had the train on for the ceremony and photos, but then for the reception, I took it off so that I could be mobile and I could dance. If you want to see what my wedding was like on that day, take a look at this video made by Ben Blondell and his wife of Wayfarer Films based in Jacksonville. And that, my friends, has been my wedding dress journey. I hope you enjoyed it. Please give it a like and a thumbs up and leave a comment so I can say hi. Subscribe for future videos too. Take a look at some of my other stuff right here.